All right, so now that the Tennessee General Assembly's legislative session is over, a lot of bills are on Governor Bill Lee's desk, or the ones that at least were passed. So a couple of those, the private school vouchers, that was a big talker, did pass. Undocumented students bill stalled for now, so that was going to allow schools to deny students who could not prove their legal status in the U.S. could either be denied an education or they would have to be charged tuition. And then that one stalled. So then Dismantling DEI Act passed, which would have allowed local governments and public universities to do away essentially with diverse hiring practices. That one did pass. Governor Bill Lee's $59.8 billion budget ultimately passed. And then one that is not on here that I think is important to start this conversation, just coming off of Memphis-Shelby County Schools, was a bill with Representative Tory Harris and Senator Brent Taylor that shifted elections so that school board elections happen at the same time as county commission elections. So this obviously would have a direct impact on all of the board members that elected former Superintendent Dr. Marie Fagan. So I will let Cardell, do you want to kind of lead us off here on just the initial passing of this bill and what that kind of means for the upcoming election season?
So I think that it was well-meaning and has some kind of false premises or assumptions in it. Like one is that's been passed around is that a lower turnout gives you lower results. Like in general, most of elections kind of follow what the trend is going to be, whether it's lower turnout, higher turnout. And it's interesting for the county commission to try to put it along with their August elections, because most of the county commissions, because we have gerrymandered districts, they get decided in the May elections. And so the May primary elections had the same turnout as last year's August elections for the school board. So if we're saying we didn't get quality from that turnout, then what are the county commissioners saying if they approve bringing this bill over? The other thing is that it takes away staggered terms. And so what it could do is, especially if it puts the school board on the same cycle next year, taking away 2 of the years from the school board members who were elected last year, then you could end up with a full, and term limits, you can end up in 8 years with switching out a whole school board for the most part. So staggered terms is a best practice that we actually should be moving the other legislative bodies towards, not taking it away. And in the end, what the crux of this is that we've heard from the community is that folks want to have term limits and they want to have the ability to recall elected officials. Without approving this legislation, the county commission could put those 2 things in place. So I would say that they should focus on just changing the charter to provide term limits and recall for school board members and let this legislation lie until it shows that there's an actual need for it.
Well, I think that's a logical response there. So I will say we saw just how much of a discourse there was between the public and the school board when it came to Dr. Marie Fagan's termination. So there was a call for recalling and getting them out of their position. Otis, how do you think this would play out?
Well, I agree with some of what you said, especially when we talk about staggered terms, but the city council doesn't have staggered terms and the county commission doesn't have staggered terms, so I don't know about that. I'm in favor, though, of putting the school board elections with that August election, even though you're right. The decisions are pretty much made in the primaries, but the decision on the county mayor, which is also in that August election, that's an interesting race there. And so the school board would be with that election as well. I do think you would get slightly more turnout than you would in a May election. People just don't come out and vote in May. So I would be in favor of moving them to the August election.
And your thoughts, Twan?
Well, my thoughts, I agree with both of them.
The agreeable panel.
I agree with both of them, but I didn't put too much weight in this because it goes back to the county commission. And when it goes back to the county commission, that gives me an opportunity to really weigh the pros and cons of this. So I don't have to really worry about that now, but I will say that I think it came up as a part of the legislative package as a backhand slap over the Fagan issue.
Oh, yeah.
To the school board, which I think is inappropriate, because you probably heard from some of the people who really support the former superintendent, but a lot of people who you never hear from are silent listeners, and they may be the majority, who just want to wait and see what happens and allow the school board to be accountable for its own actions. And when the time comes, I would vote based on whether that was a good decision for us or a bad decision for us.
Another controversial bill that stalled was the undocumented students bill, and that would have allowed schools to deny students that could not prove their legal status in the U.S. Education, or they could charge them tuition. That one stalled, so, you know, we have two quick sound bites because students really packed the state capitol to really give their thoughts. We can hear from one student, and then following that, we'll hear from Representative Monty Fritz, who's a Republican from Kingston, his language after in that legislative meeting. We could give a listen.
I am the son of immigrant parents that have shown me to respect and value everyone. Just like me and all the kids in this country, we have the right to dream and make those dreams come true. The right to an education should not be taken away from us because of our immigration status.
We're not talking about immigrants, we're talking about illegals. There is a distinct difference. There is no greater act of rebellion in these United States than illegally coming across that border.
So it's always heart-wrenching when you hear from kids, especially when they're in a state house like that, or just state chambers like that. Otis, your thoughts? Just, I mean, it's stalled, so it's held off for now.
Right, and it stalled because people in the House knew that they didn't want to go down a road of an unconstitutional bill, because this would have been unconstitutional. The state Supreme Court back in 1982 said, even though it was a 5-4 decision, you cannot deny education to any student, whether they're documented or undocumented. The Senate was willing to do that. We'll see where it goes from here, but I think the Senate wants to challenge this before a new Supreme Court now, because they think they will get that 82 law overturned. But we'll see if they are able to do that.
I'm going to be very personal. There is a God. There is a God. And Jesus was an immigrant. And everybody sitting in that General Assembly are immigrants from somewhere. And the only pure American is the Native American.
Okay.
All right.
On that, I do want to touch on one last one before we go to the break, because we're running out of time. But the Dismantling DEI Act did pass as well, or it passed. The other one stalled, but this one passed. That one would allow local governments and public colleges to do away with diverse hiring practices. Real quick thoughts on that. We'll start with you, Cardell, because you didn't get to put it on the other one.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly on the other one, I want to give a shout out to the Education for All campaign, because the push and the students, this great organizing effort that went into pushing back on this immigration bill. So just to say that and give a shout out to that. And then the DEI, we're seeing, you know, of course, federally and across the country, this attack. And Tennessee has always seemed to be, with our legislature, the tip of the spear. We had prohibited concepts that led into what became the anti-CRT kind of campaign across the country.
Sure did.
We've seen the DEI cuts and transitions that the federal government has started to make. And of course, the Tennessee legislature follows along of, you know, trying to cut out diversity and equity and inclusion in places where they don't want it, where it's meant to provide a level playing field to create fairness. So we always have to think about, when we say we don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion, then what does that say that we do want? We do want exclusion. We do want people pushed
10
out.
seconds here.
Yes.
I was born in the 50s, grew up in the 60s. I know what racism and discrimination looks like. DEI is not that. Dismantling it is just following the orders coming down from a president who is against this. And shame on the legislature for doing it.
Well,
Real quick.
All right, real quick. I hate they're doing that to all those white women, because data and statistics have proven DEI programs have helped white women more than any other group. And I just can't imagine them doing that to all those white women.
Ooh, we'll leave it right there to one. All right.